Hey, everybody. We are back 49 minutes later. I hear a little echo in mine, but let me know if you hear an echo or not in your side.
We got to figure it out.
We'll see. Let's once somebody joins, we will just make sure that it's not super echoey. I got one person on. It could be me. If you are on, there you go, Devin. Am I echoing? Hey, look at that. It actually works now. What's up, Isaac? Good to see you guys. So we're back an hour later. My watch wants me
Nobody
to
has
stand
anywhere
up.
to be right now. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to just start over. I met Rich a couple years ago through one of the events we did with KISS. And from the get-go, I was like, this guy definitely is crushing it. He's like, knows what he's doing. But as I've gotten to know him, it has been just like a gift. It's been a couple of years, but I feel like we've been friends a lot longer. We've committed to spending some time together, which has just been good. I mean, I'm constantly personally trying to study what's working in the industry. And when I first met Rich, I knew who he was. I wasn't like super following him or anything like that. But a friend of mine brought him to this event and was just like, yeah, like you should hang out with him type of a thing. And ever since then, it's just been good. Like really good conversations. A lot of our product has evolved because of Rich. A lot, he just like, he knows what he wants, but it's also like, it works really well for the industry. I've worked with a lot of creatives that know what they want and they kind of only want it for themselves. And that's totally fine. I totally understand uniqueness and all those things. Rich is like, what can we do for the industry? What can KISS do for the industry? What can I do for KISS? That's what I've like super appreciated. I don't expect that, but it's just been a gift, like getting to know him. And then I got to go to a couple of his workshops, and it's like his heart just continues to come through. Like he wants to see people around him succeed. He's like a pretty quiet, reserved guy, but he's like super talented. And so once you like get in just a little bit, it's so good getting to know Rich. So thank you so much for being on here. I appreciate you being on here, man. Sorry
Thanks
for
for
all the
having me.
technical issues.
All good. I mean, this is my first like Facebook Live anything, so I feel like we have to go through all that just because. So it's all my fault, really.
No, it's all good. For whatever reason, it just happens, So,
Yeah, man.
yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself. And when I ask that question, I really want to make sure it's like I want to know about Rich, not what necessarily what Rich does for a living, but like where are you from, what do you got going on in life,
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm from Southern California, born and raised like in Orange County, California. I literally live two exits down the freeway from the house I grew up in. I've lived a half hour south of here and a half hour north of here, and that's it. I love Southern California. I love to travel, but I love coming home to Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, honestly, a lot of my life is my work. So I work a ton. A lot of my days revolves around that. I've been shooting for 10 years. I shoot about 40 weddings a year. And then, I'm in the middle of remodeling a house right now, which is super fun during these times. And so that's been crazy. That's been taking up a bunch of my time. Super fun project. I can't wait for it to be done for a million reasons. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what's happening right now in terms of just big stuff outside of, Corona stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, no, we kind of joked because I knew when he bought the house, he had been looking forever. And I go out to Orange County regularly. I'm from Orange County. Originally, I've lived in the Midwest for coming up on 9 years now, but I love the area that he lives in as well. It's like, I like coming home just because it's home. It's like where my family is as well, and I can rest and recharge here. But I really love Orange County, and I mean, what's not to love about certain parts, right? Like beautiful food,
Certain parts.
beautiful people, beautiful like views.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, you deal with some of the other stuff. It costs a
Right.
lot, and there's traffic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we kind of joked for a little bit about like, I was like, I want to see your house, and you're like, it's just, it's a full rebuild. Like you
Yeah.
bought a house with a view, but like it needs so
It's
much work. And I was like,
yeah.
I'm down. Like, let's go hang out in lawn chairs, But I feel
Yeah.
like Corona's kept us from that. You're gonna like
I
finish
know.
it, and I'm gonna
Seriously.
come to this
Yeah.
house, and we didn't get that one piece, which is okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so if you guys do want to see the before photos, it's on my Instagram chart photo in the highlights, and I took pictures of all the craziness that was going on. Literally, there were rooms just completely full of trash. The lady there was just a hoarder. It smelled like there were 19 cats living there. I still can't believe I bought it. But the backyard and the views, like what's really going to make it special. Truth be told, Sean, the house will be done, but the backyard probably won't for a long time. So we can still have our lawn chair hangout
Perfect.
maybe for a year or two
I love it.
until the backyard gets some actual work done. So yeah.
Cool. I was a little disappointed that we weren't going to have that, so I'm grateful.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
down.
yeah. I
I'm
got
always
your
down
back.
for a lawn chair if needed. Yeah.
I'll
So
take care
Melissa
of you.
says, "Hey," and
Hey.
finally showing your face, Rich.
Oh God, I know. It's
It's
weird.
one of the things. I've been to 2 of your workshops, and that's been the encouragement. Is like, why aren't you on your own social media? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what like the whole thing is. I always just am not comfortable in front of the camera, which I think is what sort of helps me with my clients is just approaching them as if they feel the same way as me. So I'm always just trying to shoot in a way that like I can make them comfortable the entire time and not really thinking about what's happening. So in a lot of ways, I think it's been a blessing, but I probably could be marketing my business a little better if I was totally open to it. I work really hard to try and find other avenues to make social media work for me. But this is definitely like my weak point in the game for sure.
yeah, I
So
don't know.
you can
I
always
kind of
do
like
better.
it too. Like, I've gotten to know you pretty well. I can totally
Yeah,
understand it. You have a lot to
yeah,
offer, but it doesn't mean you have to show your face.
yeah,
It's like I know you value in-person things. You value like a phone call as well, and there's just specific avenues that just make sense. I was thinking about email, and it'd been a couple days since I'd even seen my email, and I was like, I don't even want to open it. I just want to call people. Like, it's so much
totally.
easier, like get so
Yeah,
much more done.
yeah,
But
for
yeah,
sure, for sure.
on the social media side of things,
Yeah,
it's definitely one of the things that I feel like you're doing really well. Your style comes through your just beautiful clients, beautiful work. What like right now we're not out taking photos,
yeah.
so how are you able to utilize like social media during this time? Do you like have a specific way of doing it in the past before this where you were like shooting really close or like posting really close to the actual shoot, or do you later
Yeah.
gram type of thing?
Yeah. So I think like before all of this, I was posting a ton like as things were happening. Um, a lot of my close friends here kind of not get mad at me, but give me a hard time for always being, the one initially in this area that was like posting previews right away, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that I've done literally since my very first year shooting was like same day previews. And I'm not talking like 40, 50 previews, just having one preview of the client the night of the shoot. I was doing that from day one, which now has become normal and it's almost become too much of a expectation, which I'm sort of trying to figure out with people. But I think being able to do that from the get-go, always posting what you're working on, showing that you're busy, showing that you're in business, showing that you're in demand, I think has always been huge. The thing that I always tell my workshop students is if you look busy, you'll be busy.
Mm.
And I think that's really helped just keep me, at front of mind for a lot of people throughout, the last 10 years.
Mm.
That being said, we're not really shooting as much anymore. So, I'm seeing a lot of people showing a lot of behind the scenes, or just showing the things that they're doing on the day to day, which I think works great. People that have kids, like they're posting their kids. People that have pets, they're showing off their pets. Now, what happens with me where I don't have kids, I don't have pets, and I don't really love to like get on camera, right? um, it's a little more difficult. The thing is, I'm not, and I never have been afraid to repurpose old content,
Mm.
which I think some people are scared of. They think whatever you post has to be something that you shot this week or, this month. For me, I'm like trying to find any excuse so that I can show, a wedding or an engagement image from 3 years ago, 5 years ago, even. Some people have seen these images, some people have not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always trying to reach out to friends, friends of friends, and then friends of friends of friends. So, once you build that bigger circle of a network, they may not have seen these images and they might be new to them, and still reacting. And then people are still like, I saw this image like last year and I still love it. Like I want to see more of that wedding, or, people hire me based on something that I shot 2 or 3 years ago. And it's just showing off your best work. It's the same as
Mm-hmm.
like what you're putting on your website. You're not afraid to show an image, a killer image from 2 or 3 years ago. I'm totally open to doing that on Instagram.
Yeah.
I think more people can be doing that right now. You don't have to say it was from 2 years ago. It just can be relevant to whatever message you're trying to, achieve that day. Or maybe, I love posting about people's anniversaries or birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that lets me show off old work when I'm not able to shoot.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I was listening to something this week actually on Instagram, and an influencer that I follow, and he was just saying he posts right then, like he posts in moments regularly, and
Yeah.
that's just his thing. But
Yeah.
what he said is what really intrigued me. He said it's called Instagram. It was
Right.
initially built for us to do it in the moment. But like as entrepreneurs, as humans in general, it's like, how can I leverage this? How can I get what I
Totally.
need from this? And I'm the same way. It's like, I don't necessarily want people knowing when I'm traveling all the time, And so there's times where I'll post stuff later. But I've been like, I'm home, I haven't
Yeah.
traveled for a long
Yeah.
time. And I'm
Yeah.
like going through like old photos, like, oh, there's a good trip with a pretty photo in it. Like, let's just say, it's
Yeah.
about the content as well. It's to be inspiring. I believe it's to be real. But it's like utilizing your platform, and especially a professional platform, to show like pretty photos. It's like when I see your work right now, I'm like, we're going to get back to like weddings and like
Yeah.
doing this again.
Yeah.
It's like it helps.
Yeah.
But I've seen people from all walks of life too going back to like, here's my kids, here's the homeschool life, here's my whatever. So that's good. How do you typically find your ideal clients?
I mean, it's always, I always find that question to be interesting, because it's like, how do you find your clients? And it's like, my clients find me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, like, they're the ones choosing me to work for them. I just need to get myself in front of their faces.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to, um, you know, at first it was sort of like getting lucky and having the clients that I wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're in your early days, especially, you don't really know the clients that you're particularly hoping to shoot with more. What I've always tried to do is market to my clients' friends and family. Those
Mm-hmm.
are my next clients to me, right? So, those first couple of years when I would get a couple that I just loved, and like we vibed really well, we clicked, everything made sense. I worked really hard to get my images in front of their network of people. And so that was like, the day after the wedding, friend requesting the entire bridal party on Facebook, posting a bridal party photo and tagging all of those, bridesmaids and groomsmen on Facebook, So that way they all now have an image to share on
Yeah.
their platforms, and then you expand from there. Doing things like that from very early on and continuing to do that now just helps me get in front of the right faces of the kinds of people that I want to be shooting with.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, not everybody's in those shoes, right? And I love that about you. You're basically saying like, hey, I've built this way. I found the people I wanted to work with. I did what I could to then work with them, right? You invested in the relationship. You invested
Totally.
with like the photos, tagging, all the things that social media now does, at least,
Right. Yeah.
it's why they've built in all these things as like DMs. It's a
Totally.
communication tool.
Yeah.
But like, how would you give advice in that world right now? Like, the gift right now is time. And we know we're going to go back to work at some point and things like that, meaning like photographers out taking pictures. So what does it take? Like, what's a step somebody could take in that direction utilizing social media?
I think like literally investing the time in social media by just engaging with other people.
Mm.
I friend request all of my clients on Facebook and Instagram as soon as they book me. Um, and that way I can be in their daily lives as well as, me in theirs. Like, yeah, I'm showing off my work to them, but I get to see like, oh, like you went to this restaurant for dinner last night. Cool. I've been there too. Did you try this? A lot of times right after an engagement session, I'll get an influx of their friends and family following me on Instagram. And it's like, okay, you're like 24 years old, 26, 27-year-old, bride that's friends with another one of my brides. Maybe she's not a bride yet. She's a friend of my bride. It's like, okay, you're a potential bride. Maybe it's this year, maybe it's in 5 years from now, but I will go and friend request them. So that way I can go and be involved in what's going on with them. Because we have a connection of a mutual friend, right? So now we have an excuse to be following each other, and then I can insert myself in their life a little bit. And so when they get engaged, they already know who they're going to contact first. It's not even a question. Like, they're going to call me because we've been talking about, oh, their new dog that they got, or oh, they moved to this house, or we went to this restaurant. Like, it's investing in the long game a little bit. And then they also get to see the results of their friend's wedding that I did shoot, and which they may have been there as a guest, which is an extra bonus. But even if they're not there as a guest, they still have seen my work and have seen my relationship with that person. So that trust is built in.
Yeah. This is one thing I've respected about you since right after I just started getting to know you, is like, you're willing to do the work, right? Like, there's so many people that I talk to that's like, I want more weddings. And I'm like, I don't teach. That's one of the things I just don't educate on. Cause to me, it was like, I showed up and I did whatever, like bridal shows. I'd shoot with tons of other photographers, trying to create, basically what you're talking about is like, before social media, it was like, we had to get these connections like in person, which I feel like you're still doing. But with social media, it's like, it is such an amazing tool to be like, and you're the one doing it, right, Rich? Like,
it's all me. Again, I don't have pets. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. So it's a little different for sure. I understand that gives me a time advantage, but we all hopefully have a little more time right now to like be doing these things and to create and build systems for ourselves, to make this an easy thing. You know, what you said is like, I'm not afraid to do the work. I'm always looking for, I'm not afraid to do more things. I just don't want them to be hard things. Does that make sense? Like the least amount of friction possible. I'm not afraid to add more steps to my workflow as long as they're easy. And I'm always trying to find easier ways to do these things. So it's not about a more thing for me,
Yeah, and I think it is. When we say yes to something, I believe we should say no to something else in order to create space and margin. That's what KISS is all about. Pursue simple. That's our goal. But the thing about it is, I don't expect everyone to do all their social media, but you have like a lot of followers. I'm sure the engagement's there. You probably get lots of DMs and things like that. At some point, you've done enough work where you could like basically, let's say, you're in like a busy season of working, and you're like, I can't even, I have to give up something,
Yeah.
enough about it. That's what I respect. I'm not
Mm.
saying like people aren't working hard enough. It's that like I'm totally good with outsourcing so many things, believe me. But it's
Yeah.
like get to know it enough to where when you do outsource, it's like an extension of you. Like our team
Totally.
is our vision. And when you look at Rich's work, it's like that is Rich photographed that. Rich posted that. Rich edited that. Rich, like, sure. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure I know you use editing companies and stuff like that, but you're also like, you have this perfectionist side of you that's like, it has to be Rich. I'm not
Yeah.
letting that go out the door before it is exactly what I want it to be. And you know enough about social media now and how you want it to go that you could at some point. And that's what I'm saying is
Yeah,
like, I
for
really want
sure.
people to like get in, do the work. And then I get it. If you're like date night or dogs or kids
Yeah.
or whatever, I totally get it. But it's like, we do need to be the professional at first, especially before we
And
grow that company.
I think like, it has been something that I've considered, because I totally believe in outsourcing. I'm a huge like proponent of it. I just like to keep in mind that like when I'm outsourcing, I'm not trying to get them to make it 100% perfect.
Yeah.
If they can get me 80 or 90% of the way there, then I'm happy. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
if I did outsource my social media, I'd be totally okay with them like picking my images and like even potentially writing captions. But I would still be the one going in there and commenting back on things or replying to DMs. I don't even know if I could totally let go of the captions. Not that mine are particularly creative or anything. It's just like a personal like,
Yep.
I want to talk about what I want to talk about at that time. But like, it is one of those things where I'm like, could somebody pick the images for the next month? Like, yeah, maybe that would, alleviate some potential stress for me. So,
Yeah, I
um,
really want to
I,
highlight something that you just said. Um, it is a total gift what you said. It's like if they can do it 80% of how I do it, because I had the hardest time, and I could even hear a little bit of control in your voice where you're just like, maybe I could do this. It's like it's hard, right?
it's real
There's
hard.
this like thing that I follow, and it's a apprenticeship square, and so it's like I do, you watch, I do, you help, you do, I help, you do, I watch it. But in that whole thing, a lot of times the apprentice especially falls into the pit of despair. Like if I ever came and did your social media, I'm like, I would get to this point where I'm like, I'll never be as good as Rich. But if I'm in the pit of despair because we have the communication open, you're able to speak to me like, hey, I get it,
Right.
will get you
Yeah.
there. That's why I'm still here. And so
Yeah.
80% is a total gift for those that will outsource at some point. I think 80% is enough. And then you just watch and you see them like it's crazy because sometimes they'll
Yeah.
be 120%, meaning they're better than
Right.
you at some point. That's the
Totally.
gift. That's when it
Yeah.
gets
That's
good.
the gift for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been the same way with editing, and it took me a long time to get to that mindset because
Mm-hmm.
at first it is sort of like I'm paying you, this should be perfect, like from the get go, and it's like
Yep.
I haven't done my job of training you, letting you know like how I think about things, whether it's edits or if it were to be Instagram or something else like that. It's like there needs to be time there to kind of like nurture that relationship and like show them what it is that you're trying to think literally. And that's not an easy thing to do, and it's not something that comes quickly usually.
Yeah.
So I've had to sort of let go of stuff a little bit and just build a certain standard, and the standard is not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's helped me a lot to just, if I'm only doing 10 or 20% of the work on my edits, like that's so much better than me doing 100% of it.
Yeah. There's a
So
lot of hours right there.
yeah, for sure.
Hey, Michaela. Good to see you on here. Thanks for saying hey. So currently, like, we're still, we know like our hope is that we'll be on the other side of this, right? So you have social media, yeah, but there's other avenues as well. So pick your avenue. Like how are you looking for future clients while like understanding your current clients are like rescheduling, like the craziness of all that?
Yeah. I mean, my game plan is literally the same as it's been the entire time. Um, I'm trying to keep as much the same with my business as possible,
Hmm.
um, because I know it's worked, but like being flexible to things as needed. Um, so things like certain policies, like I've been flexible with, date changes, things like that. But the way that I market my business, I don't think is necessarily affected by what's happening. I'm still marketing to my bride's friends and family. Those are still people that will be getting married next year, the
Hmm.
year after, the year after, the year after. Um, so game plan is really just to try and keep it the same and keep it as structured as possible. I think that gives me clarity in terms of like where I'm trying to head, in that aspect, and leaves me kind of brain power to work on other projects that I've been putting off for the last 3 5 years because it's just been too freaking busy.
Yeah.
So by having certain systems and being able to stick to them or tweaking them just a little bit, and being able to stick to them, it just frees up that like brain power, which is like so crucial right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think freeing up that and just the awareness of it, like, hey, I need capacity for this thing, you know? And even like you were talking about, like, you may not have kids, but you're like building a house. That's no joke. You said like during this time, but I know a lot of people that have built houses and not one of them's like, oh, that was the most amazing thing I've ever done. There's always something,
Yeah.
you know?
I thought I would be the one lucky one, and it's like, no, no,
We
no.
all do.
It really is just the most stressful thing
Yeah, it's very likely I'm building a house in like five
Yeah.
years or so, and I'm just like I'm just gonna be okay with not being the one because it's just not possible.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna try and
insane.
think of as many things that I could do to help that. Meaning like
Yeah.
you don't want two mortgages, you don't want to be living in an apartment, all the things, but you end up
All
doing
the
those
things
things. So
I'm
it's like,
doing right now
yeah,
that's
totally,
impossible. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, it'd be awesome if it just switched at the perfect time. It's like I'm just going to plan on it not, and that's why
Yeah.
I'm trying to plan it 5 years down the road as well.
This is why you are a smarter man than I, my friend.
um, so these are one of the things that I love about Rich, right? Like, I got to know him. I saw his work. I saw like all these like beautiful, I mean, the images and everything. And I love where he lives and all those things. But like, then I got to go to a workshop and I was like stoked to just like peek in and see how he educated and things like that. Cause I'm always drawn to those types of things, and I show up, I do my thing. Both times I've had to like fly in, fly out, and it's been awesome. Like I could live that way, but the second one I got to go out like in Palm Springs, and we were out in the desert. And when I first I got to see him explain it on a monitor, like he was talking through images, and he was just talking about how he would pose them. And I was like, I get it. That is really cool. What I love about Rich is he's super direct, and it's like there's no fluff. Like he just says like put your hand and then just fill in the blank wherever. And it's like, okay, like that makes total sense. So walk us through that just a little bit, because when we got out to the desert, I was like, it totally works. It's like it doesn't matter if they're a model or if they're an actual client. It happened to be actual clients and
Yeah.
things like that you have photographed before, but
Yeah.
they're still humans and they need direction. How would you like, how would you explain to somebody how to practice posing and how to practice like your verbal cues? Or what I was like, no kidding, like that is why they're so good, because
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
what you want, the lines you want, and we all do in our head, but it's hard for creatives to get that out of our mouth and then to get a subject to do those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's been a process for sure. And I think, um again, I approach it the way that I would need to be approached to get photographed. I need to know what to do. I'm so uncomfortable as soon as you pick up the camera and put it in front of me. Like I freeze, I just feel awkward,
Right.
and I just assume everyone feels that way. So how can I avoid that? It's like the first thing I want to do is keep them out of their own heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do I do that? I give them stuff to do the entire time. I don't let my clients sit in a pose for more than like 3 seconds. And that doesn't mean we have to completely change poses. It just could be like, okay, you guys are looking at each other, now look away. And and just by giving them a break from that one pose, or that one part of the pose lets you reset. And so maybe I'm having them look at each other and I'm not getting exactly what I want. Maybe I'm too far away or something's just a little weird. I will have them look at each other, have them look away, then I'll come in closer because that's what I wanted, right? And have them look at each other again. And by doing that, it gave them that break. It let me do the work instead of having them stay in one spot while I walk closer to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's filling in those gaps, giving them a break every couple of seconds, knowing that when they're doing that look away shot, I don't really want it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter to me. My goal is a better version of that looking at each other shot. And so sort of taking that throughout the entire shoot of like knowing what it is that I'm looking for or knowing that I'm not getting what I want right now, allowing for them to have breaks and reset is such a huge thing. Describing everything with confidence is like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like I have to pretend like I know what the heck I'm doing, even when I don't. There's plenty of times where it's like I'm in crappy light, or the couple's just being awkward as crap, and I have to figure out like how to adjust. But I'm talking to them as if it's perfect already, and as if I know exactly what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
And so you can experiment confidently. Does that make sense? It's all the way that you verbalize and the way that you project yourself. Like, you know, if they're looking at each other and want one to look away, I don't know how necessarily it's going to look at. I will just, as directly as possible, just like, okay, bride, look to the right and then down. Maybe I don't like that. Okay, look down. Okay, now look up. And all they're thinking is like, oh, we just have two versions of the same shot.
Yeah.
They don't know like the looking down shot looks like crap. So just being able to like really verbalize that is huge. Having a base set of poses walking into each session is huge. And then having some variations of each of those poses is massive, just so you know you have options.
Yeah.
What I've done in the past is just like really inspect my images after a session and which ones am I picking? Which ones am I choosing to post on Instagram? Which ones are going on my blog? And then why? Why do these look more natural than others? It's the same pose perhaps as the session before, but like maybe a hand is in a different spot or people are turned in more towards each other than in another version of the same exact pose. So really inspecting why things are working and then being able to look for that while you're actually doing the session.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to kind of just go back through what you just said, because there's so much there, and there's like, it makes me want to shoot. And it's been a while since I've really wanted to shoot, you know, like, both times I've been with you on or talking about it, or even in that photo shoot, I was like, I wish I had a camera right now when we were out there, and I took some on my phone, but, so here's some things that I heard you say, which was, it's absolute. Like, I haven't heard one of these things in here. I heard all the other things, but this one was like super key. And it's what you started with. Like, I was picturing myself being photographed, right? And you're like, I don't let them stay in a pose for 3 seconds. Like, as a photographer, I'm like, you're crazy. I'm trying to get the light right. I'm trying to get the distance right. And so, but that becomes about me. But now that's me as a photographer. Now me as the subject. I was thinking like, well, duh. Like, as soon as I hear that shutter, I'm like, I wonder how I look. I wonder how this looks. Oh, I've seen a photo of me and I don't like this angle. So all of a sudden I'm in my head. Like, can you imagine? And that was the thing. Like, when I'd walk in to photograph, like when I see the bride right from the get-go, I would leave my camera on the porch or in my car, because I wanted to come in and say, hey, instead of like, because I'm now introducing myself to everybody. The bride knows me, but not everybody does. And if you come in guns blazing, it's like, everyone's like, whoa, like, I wasn't ready for that, you know? Yeah, it's crazy. So that was genius. Like, don't let them get in their own head is what I heard. Just by saying, hey, look away. Now look this way. You're just doing what you're told, and you're looking for that shot as a photographer, but you're directing it. And that was like, that's so good. Cause I would just be like,
they appreciate it so much. And it's not just, you know, I've shot with, you know, my normal everyday clients, of course. But then sometimes at, workshops and stuff, I've worked with like influencer couples and things like that. People that are used to being in front of the camera, whether they're shooting themselves or shooting, being shot by other people.
Yeah.
Every single time they will just tell me, oh my God, it was so nice just to have that much direction. We didn't
No
really have to think
doubt.
about anything. And it's like, these are people that are so comfortable that you don't think they need it, and they probably don't. But at the same time, like, I want to make them as comfortable as possible, and I'm taking the work on myself. Like, that's what you guys are paying me for, is to
Yep.
like give you what I know how to create.
Yeah.
And I think it just lets them have fun and puts them at ease throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like you let them do what they're doing, you coach them through it, and you're looking for that. You're like an artist right now. You're painting the picture, but you don't just like do a couple brushes and the painting's done. Like you work through a painting, and you're trying to tell a story as well as get like amazing photos through the whole thing. And so
Right.
like keeping them out of their head, working, keeping positive. I know that I've never seen you. I had a bad habit of this at first. Like when I went from film to digital, now you can see it on the screen, and it was like, oh, you missed.
Yeah.
And it was like, the couple's like, what, is it me? So I've seen you do
Totally.
that where you stay positive through it.
Yeah.
You walk them
I
through
also
it.
never let them see the back of the camera.
Yeah,
ever.
that's huge. Yeah.
And I know
love
some
that.
people do, and it's like, oh, it gives them confidence. It's like, man, I'm not even confident because I haven't scrolled through and picked the best one of that series. And people are so critical of themselves. I will have the most beautiful bride. And when I had shown her the back of the camera, it was like, oh, my arm looks weird. It's like, God, I haven't even picked the right one out of the series. So it's like, forget it. And and I'll say that confidently, and they laugh, and they're like, okay, Rich, that's funny. And then, they're okay with it.
Yeah, they are. And it's good. I mean, it's like building anticipation, but you're like, you look amazing. Wow, I can't wait to show you this, but I don't want to show you on the back of my camera. There's other things I want to do to this. There's like, I actually just totally missed, but I know I'm going to get some good shots to show you.
We haven't put the frosting on the cake yet. You know what
totally.
I mean? So it's like, cake's no good without that. So
I love that. The other thing that I really caught was like your interaction, your direct, and even like, doesn't matter. Like models are humans, and so these influencer models, they know they may be a little easier to work with, but it's like still like they still love to be walked through what you're looking for, But another thing was when you get to the end of the shoot, right? Like I just posted something this week about this. A master fails more times than most beginners ever even try. So being willing to, and so what I heard in the way that you said it is not that you're failing, but that you're going through the work in order to be a master. You're like, oh, I like the lines in this photo, and because their hands are this way, it's amazing watching you work with couples, because you're like, if you do this, then watch, like their back creates this line, and it's like, I didn't even think of it that way. It's so amazing, but I could tell you've studied it, and a master takes the time to study even your own work,
Yeah, it's one of those things that like at this point I almost want to go take an anatomy class or something like that to like really learn what like certain muscles and bones do when you put them in certain positions, because I'm always looking for where's the pressure point in this photo? Where's the tension? Is there tension in a shoulder? Is there tension in an elbow? And how do I release that? Because I want my images to look effortless and relaxed. So it's like literally looking to see, if I've kept a couple standing next to each other for too long, eventually like shoulders will start to creep up and it's like sort of tense. I will literally go up to them and just tap them on the shoulder and be like, okay, relax. And everything kind of chills out. So it's always looking for where's the tension in the pose and getting rid of that. And sometimes you can see that in person, and sometimes you don't see it till after the fact when you're at home looking at the images. So then you just start to pay attention to those things at each shoot. How are their arms? How are their hands? Hands are always, tricky. Just making sure everything looks really loose and relaxed. And sometimes that's telling them how to hold hands. I tell my clients at the very beginning, when I have you guys hold hands, we're not going to hold hands like this.
Yeah.
Because this looks tense to me. I don't know whose fingers are whose. it makes hands look big, and it's just sort of stressful. So I'll say, well, hold the hands like this, like this. And even when they're actually walking through and holding each other's hands, I will have them hold them very, very loosely, as if you are just going through a walk, in a field together. Even if it's not what's naturally happening, it will look more natural.
Yep. That's good. So I love that. That's great. Some really good, like, how to, like, what's another thing? I mean, what I'm hearing you say is like, study it, right? Like, see what you like in your images and other people's images, and then learn how to make it happen. But how do you practice that? Like, especially like right now, I guess you can study, but how the going up and touching somebody's shoulder. And I've heard you coach certain things where I'm like, I just wouldn't have said it that way, but it's amazing how the image turns out,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's been through experimentation. It's sort of like, okay, if I know what the final result is for this pose, how do I get them there? It's almost never, from step 1 to step 2, it's never just a 2-step thing. It's like point A to B to C to D to F, finally to Z. Like, there's a lot of like working into the proper pose. So I will get them in something very basic, and then make a tweak, and then make a tweak, and then make a tweak. And so that each change that I'm making builds up on each other, so that they get to that final point. Does that make sense?
Like, totally. I mean, what I hear you saying is like, see, in my mind, I would be thinking like, oh, they must think I don't have what I want. But you're not. Like, the reason I would think that is because I just leave them in the pose where you're like, look away, lower your hands, lower your shoulder just a little bit, and you're just constantly looking for that thing. And you may have taken 30 photos in order to get the one. It's totally worth it. Like, because you're doing those two things, you're firing, you're making little adjustments, but they're not stuck. They're not like just in their own head either. That's so amazing.
I think like one that I kind of always go to as an example for that is like, if you have a couple facing each other and you have the bride like throw her arms over the groom's shoulders, right? Like just over the top. Whenever they do that, they're usually blocking the groom's face like a lot. So I know that that's not my shot, but I will shoot that as if it is. And then I'll have her bring one arm down or both arms down so that she's not blocking him. But like, I can't say, get on his chest right where I want you to. I have to do this first and then come down and then come down. Because it's just easier for them to digest.
I love that. You're like getting through the shot, and they're part of it. And so they just think you're taking all these photos. And what's funny is they will never be like, where's that one shot of the arms up over? Like, it just doesn't happen, right? They're so stoked on your final Z shot, that you got to. I mean, I just love that. So be willing to go through the process.
Sacrifice a couple of frames,
It's like, it's interesting because this. I've wanted to live dangerously, like with my words. Be willing to ask for feedback. Be willing to like say something when I typically would like be reserved. It's like the same thing. Like, continue to work till you get the shot, even though you're like, I'm taking too long. It's like, take more time, please. Take more time to get the shot that you want. You'll be so happy. They'll be so happy. The print of work will be better. Like, I love that.
And every time you give them a reset, the clock starts all over again. So it's not, 5 minutes to get the shot. It's a bunch of 5 to 10 second moments that you get built up to get the shot. So those resets are huge.
You've done some workshops now. I just have a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up. But how do people find your workshops?
You can just go to literally charredworkshop.com, or I think it's just on my website. There's just an education tab. You can go directly through there. I had one scheduled actually, I think, for this week. And so that's getting postponed to, I'm hoping for October. I haven't pulled any official dates yet, but fingers
I
are
know it
crossed.
was this week because
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be in Cabo right now as
Okay.
well, and I
Yeah,
know
then it
that's
was
why I
for
couldn't
sure.
come.
Yeah.
It was this week.
Yeah. Totally this week then. So yeah, hoping for October. There's a spot where you can sign up for the mailing list, and that way I can just get information out to people as soon as it's
Cool.
available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll make sure to link to that as well. Um, same same ballpark, but like, how did you get to a place where you're like, I want to teach workshops? Like, what advice would you give to a photographer?
Yeah. My process with workshop was kind of interesting. Um, I was lucky enough to kind of build a pretty good following and a pretty good, you know, just trajectory fairly quickly. I would say probably 3 years in, things started to really build. Um, and so a lot of people were asking for workshops, and it was like a daily thing, just DMs of like, when's your workshop? When's your workshop? And I just felt like I didn't really have anything to offer yet that you couldn't just get somewhere else. It's
Mm,
like there were other people offering workshops or other people um, talking about the same things that I do, but they're just talking about it on YouTube for free or whatever. Um, so I didn't feel like it was necessarily my time yet. I
hmm
didn't have a voice, and there was always the argument of, well, people, even though they can get that information from somewhere else, they still want to hear it from you. It's like, I totally get that. I just didn't believe in it yet.
hmm
Um, so, I ended up having a bunch of conversations with my second shooters. We'd go to dinner after a wedding or on the way to a wedding or things like that. And I would kind of tell them certain things that I was doing in my business, whether it was marketing or social media or post processing, whatever it was. And I would see their heads almost just explode with like, oh my gosh, like I've never heard of anybody doing that. Or just like really stoked on the information that I gave them. And after that happened a bunch of times, it was like, okay, I'm doing something that is a little bit different from other people. So now it's time to, put that together, put it in a workshop. And I've done, I think, 10 or 11 at this point, something like that. And they've all been a little bit different from each other. Putting on a workshop's a really, really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
If there was a company that just put on workshops, like they would make a killing. So somebody go do that. But so putting on a workshop's a difficult thing. You're literally putting on an event, which is not my forte. I've been trying to get more help with that aspect of it. The education part I love. The logistics part is just like so hard for me. It's just
hmm
not something that I feel strongly about. But each one has been a little bit different for me to try and figure out, how much time do I need to be able to communicate my ideas effectively?
hmm
Um, do I want guest speakers to come in and join and give people a break from hearing my voice for a whole day or 2 whole days? How do I deal with, shoots? How do I make sure that, these workshop students can see the way that I shoot, the way that I pose, the way that I interact with clients, but still get them shots that they can go home and edit and love and enjoy and show off. So that's been a big process. Um, I would say people that are looking into like offering workshops of their own, um, try and figure out what your voice is, what your perspective is that's different from anybody else's. I think that's huge because I don't know. I mean, I've either been to workshops that I didn't enjoy, or I've heard a lot of people that went to workshops and they hated it.
mm
Um, my entire thing has always been like, if you're going to pay me money and sit and listen to me talk for 2 days, then I need to make sure that I'm giving you information that's like applicable and like you can make changes tomorrow and have a huge, impact in your business. Um, there are workshops out there that are just super inspiring and like give you good feelings and like that's awesome. I think we all need that at some point in time. My workshop is not that, and it's very intentionally not that, because there are so many people that are able to give that to you. I'm here because I want to like give you real information.
Yeah.
And so I think just figuring out for yourself, like what type of information do you want to be giving to people? Do you want to just like uplift them in some sort of emotional capacity? Great. Go do that and go kill it. Or do you have some information that like you're doing something that's totally different from all of your peers, and you can really like give that to people so that they can make their businesses a million times better? Then go and do that.
Yeah.
But figuring it out, that's good. I think start small. Literally like start with like a 5-person workshop. Don't try to go big on your first time, because there's so much to figure out that it's really, really hard to figure all that out in front of 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to like be okay with starting small, and then just continue to make it better. Like let it build, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. My takeaways from that are like, I love that. Start small. I'm just going to start there, because to have 5 people that you get to pour into, and even if they're like friends, and like they know all the things, like they'll give you the feedback as well,
Totally.
get the feedback, because when you have 15, 20, it is way different than, you can put 5 in like a small living room,
Yeah.
when you get 15 around, and especially at a shoot and all these things, I love that. So start small.
Well, you can even just get like the 5 people that typically second shoot for you throughout the year.
Yeah.
Because they're also getting that training, so that they're doing better for you while they're second shooting for you. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, you're like
So
training your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a really, really easy, and obviously they're probably not paying for that stuff, but just to flush out the information, and then have it be in really open forums, because they'll be the ones that really give you feedback.
Yeah, some of the best workshops I've been to, I also went to the beta. They were like, hey, can you just come? Would you mind? Like, I'll give you lunch and dinner and we'll celebrate and all these things, but we're going to do a workshop and then we're just going to ask you for feedback. And it was like, it evolved into this, like, just such solid content, because we gave them tough feedback, as well as like, this is what was amazing. This is what I'd work on. So I love that concept. Like, start small with people that that are willing to like give you feedback. I'm like,
1,000%.
It's hard
That's
for people to give feedback.
It's missing from our industry.
Totally.
In reality, I've been starting to send out more requests for feedback from the workshops, and sometimes there's stuff in there that I'm just like, damn, like I failed,
Yeah.
And that sucks. But like, guess what? Like, I'm glad somebody told me so I can work on it, because otherwise I'm just going to keep failing and not know. And it's about like not taking that stuff personally and knowing that like you're still growing. And of course, like I'm bummed, like I totally get bummed, and I give myself a couple minutes to be bummed, and then it's like, okay, how am I going to fix this? Because like I can't do this again. And I think that's why each one just gets better and better. And so like, asking for feedback is huge, and just being really receptive to feedback, not taking it personally, knowing that the person giving you feedback is also kind of going out on a limb.
Totally. It's risky.
That's a big deal. Yeah. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So definitely get some feedback, start small, know your purpose, and like what you're going to be sharing with them is like, hey, this can change your business. Melissa said it earlier. She said attending Rich's workshop last April was the biggest pivot point in my business. And I wouldn't have made massive growth without him. Literally my favorite person ever. It's like, you're making a difference, because I believe you were like willing to like, that you can teach social media. You can teach like how to get to shoot like 40 weddings, how to like invest in those relationships, how to pose. Like, that is by far my favorite thing out of like your workshop. And it's not just like do a styled shoot, and this is another point that you said, basically like know what you want to offer, and also tell them what you're not offering, because I mean, you and I talked about it when you're wanting to like evolve your workshop. You're like, I just want to tell them that we're doing a shoot, but there's going to be a time where you get to use your camera and a time where you get to watch me use my camera, because I want you to learn. You're literally trying to like multiply leadership into them, multiply your gifts into them, versus like, because if you sit there and pose all day, I mean, anybody would look like a rock star
Yeah.
if you posed for them, right? But then they're at a
Right.
wedding, like, why don't my images look like Rich's? You know,
Yeah. And
you're
like
like,
that's
no, this
like
is why I pose. You know?
yeah, and I think that's been a very specific thing with my workshop is it's like it's not a styled shoot.
Yeah.
Um and very intentionally. Again, you can go have there's so many workshops that like the main thing of it is the styled shoot.
Mhm.
You can
Yeah,
go do that.
it'll fill up the room. I mean, we love shooting. There's nothing
Totally.
wrong with it, but
And
it's
like
like,
yeah, but like how do I do something that's different, right?
yeah,
And so I intentionally don't do a styled shoot. I really try to work very hard to book a couple that is like a couple of mine, people that are like real clients of mine.
yeah,
I can't always do it because sometimes it's in different cities and I don't have clients there. But I try to make sure that it's people that I've shot for and been paid by them to do it.
yep,
Um, I want to work through the real awkwardness with a couple instead of just having models that like know all their angles and like already know how to be in front of a camera. Um, and then the other thing too is like I don't I don't necessarily want students to like use these images for their portfolio. It's not
hmm,
about that. It's about the experience of getting to like break down a shoot and learn. So that way, if you go and do a styled shoot of your own or work with real clients of your own, you have those images that are different from the other 15 people that were at the workshop. There's
yeah,
nothing that I would hate more than seeing like all 15 of my students have one of my workshops images be their header for their website.
yeah,
It's like it's just it wouldn't be good for a bride to see that. You know
right,
what I mean? So it's like, how do I give you stuff that like you're excited to shoot, of course, but like go home and shoot your own thing. Um, that's been a big deal for me. And then trying to balance that out, your shoot time, my shoot time, that's been really tricky. And I think we finally have gotten to a good balance with that. Um, just really showing the value of like just watch me shoot for a minute.
yep,
And so the first shoot of each workshop is literally just like I encourage them not to bring their cameras.
yep,
I encourage them to just sit and watch. And then the second day, like I'm gonna hang back. Like I'm gonna get a couple of shots, but like that's about it, and that's just for the clients. And then I will help them through poses as needed. I will make tweaks to their poses to say like this might be a little bit better. Look at this. Pay attention to this. Or they've been standing there for too long. Let's give them something else.
yeah,
Um, and that way, hopefully they get a little bit of both. And I think it's just a different approach to the shoots at a workshop, and I think it's been working well. I think it's been getting better each time. I think that's
yeah.
really like something that I've been struggling with, and I'm happy to like finally be in a good place with it.
Yeah. Well, it's really fun to watch. Like if you get a chance to go to one of Rich's workshops, like go check it out. There's so much to be learned. I mean, it's like the posing is like my favorite part, just because I haven't really seen anybody teach it that way. I've always loved
Mm-hmm.
his work. It's clear that it's like it's different in a way that it's like it's very consistent across the board, but it's like, man, it's like top level stuff. There's no doubt about it, and
Thanks,
we're always
dude.
wanting to refine our craft, so I appreciate that about you. But
Appreciate
you
it.
teach it really well. Like I love
Thank
that you're
you.
like, don't bring your camera. And
Yeah,
the way you said it even when I was there was like, if you want to bring your camera, that's fine, but you're not going to get as
I
much out
felt
of it.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
felt
and
bad.
I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's also like just be willing to hear that feedback and like listen, like it's so good
Yeah,
sometimes. Just we don't do that enough. We don't sit
yeah,
still enough. We don't listen enough. We
yeah.
don't allow it to just be what it is. We try and fix everything.
Hmm.
But if you get a chance to go to one of Rich's workshops, it is totally worth it. Like it's solid content, and it's packed in. I mean, your brain's gonna be tired at the end,
Yeah,
but take tons of notes because you'll have so much work to
it's
do,
a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, hey, man, I appreciate you
Yeah, dude.
being on here. We will post where people can find you. I'm sure
Yeah.
most of these people know where to find you, but I just want you to know, like, you're a gift to me. You're a gift to this industry. I appreciate your willingness. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people that just want to like cover it all up. You're like, hey, I want more people doing this in
Yeah.
their own version, and I've loved that whenever we get to sit around and rap about the industry, you come up with stuff. And I know you care enough about the industry, you want to see it elevated
Yeah.
as well. And we have
Sure.
similar hearts in that. And I just love that. So I really appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time to be on
Thanks,
here.
dude.
We'll definitely have to do this again, and maybe we can go on at the right time.
Yeah.
So thanks for your
We'll do better.
patience. Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah. We
Thanks,
will,
dude. It's super fun.
Nicole and the team, we will work through getting all the information that you have in the comments and things like that as well. But
Beautiful.
I just want you to know I appreciate you, man.
Dude, thank you. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for your support, and just like the willingness to hear stuff, I think is always been amazing. Just going back to feedback really quick, it's like you guys are so good about that. Wanting to be better and wanting to know like what's going on from the photographer's perspective. And I think like that's like such a huge thing from my business is like I want to be able to like say, hey, this is working or this is not, and just be heard, even if it's not done the way that I want to, or you have to figure out what works best for you. Fortunately, everything's kind of worked out the way I want, but I'm just thankful for like a listening ear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, this is kind of funny. Go live with lawn chairs in Rich's backyard.
I
Hey,
mean,
don't threaten me with a
yeah,
good time.
yeah, it might happen.
Yeah. So this is what I want to say to you, the photographers that are still listening, and we'll see this. We'll keep this on our Facebook page. Like when I look at Rich as a photographer, I'm like, I would love to be Rich. Like I would love to photograph the way that he photographs, to photograph in the area that he photographs, live where he lives, whatever it is. It's inspiring, but I want you to hear that he wants to influence you in a way that he wants you to be the best version of you, because copies of Rich is not a bad thing, but there will be a missing component in your life. Like I was thinking about it today and I posted a little bit about it. Like I feel like I'm enough on a good day, but am I working hard enough like to become who I was made to be? It's different. And so I feel like you are enough. Let's work. We can learn so many great things from Rich. And in order to go home and to work on the things so that like what you've learned now becomes yours and you get to do your version of it. Like it's so amazing that he's willing to share the things that he does, because he could just like put his head down, continue to work and do his thing, but he wants to see people around him do really well. I know that from experience sitting with him. I know that he's for me. I know that he's for you. That's why he's willing to come on here. But like go home and be the best version of you. Go home and learn these things, study your work, study his work, see, why hands should be this way versus this way. When my wife and I walk around, this is how we walk.
Right.
But when I get photographed by Rich someday, which is totally a bucket list, my hands will be like this and I'll know why,
This is way more comfortable. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
This is cuter,
Totally. And I love that, so become a master. That's what I loved about Rich. I know he's constantly working at being better. He wants to be a master at something, and that just takes going out and be willing to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again. So go do that. Like during this time, just study these videos and find people that are for you, and just become the best version of you. I just want to inspire you with that and hopefully influence you in a way that it's like there'll be tough days, but you get to choose to get back up, dust yourself off, and be a better version of you. So let us know what we can do for you. I'm serious. Like we're gonna get it on the calendar, and we'll be live in the backyard of Rich's house and lawn chairs someday. I can't wait to travel, by the way. So I would do that whenever. So thanks for being on here. Thank you so much for just being a part of this, and let us know. Give us feedback. How can we do this better? What do you want to hear from us? We will see you next time. Thanks for being with us.